know, my mom always told me, if you ain't strong, you better be smart. And given that logic, well, I guess I should be really smart. But I have a plan. Yes, you saw the thumbnail and title. I'm gonna make a hydraulic exoskeleton. And that basically means a hydraulic backpack on my back and a metal skeleton around my arms with hydraulic rams in there and a hydraulic gripper on the end to make my movements super strong so I can crush anything. So, first thing I did, took some measurements of my body, then went to the computer and made this. Alright, looks pretty good, right? So this is the main back plate, basically the backpack with hydraulic valves on there, the pump and the tank. And later in the video I'll explain how all of this will work so you can make your own hydraulic system. It's not as complicated as you might think. And then moving to the front, you can see the both arms with the grippers on there. And then for the shoulder joint, which is actually quite a complicated joint, it can move in all directions. I'm only going to be able to move it like this with hydraulic power and up and down manually. And then of course we got the elbow joint right here and then the gripper, which will also be hydraulic. So what I'll be able to do with it is crush stuff together really hard, pull stuff apart. Of course you have the gripper on there, which can crush stuff. It's really gonna be more a destruction machine more than anything else. I don't think I'll be able to lift heavy stuff with it because it's still gonna be attached to my weak body and my weak legs. And this thing is gonna be pretty heavy itself. Doesn't matter though, I'm gonna be the strongest man in the world, prove my mom wrong. I'll be able to crush anything, pull anything apart. It's gonna be amazing. Let's start building. First step, to the CNC plasma table. Alright, so that's the main back plate done. Fits pretty good, look. Well, pretty comfy. Could use some shoulder pads later maybe, but you know, not too bad. And I already know this thing is gonna weigh a ton. There's just no way I'm gonna be able to just pick it up and put it on my back. I'm gonna have to hang it in the crane and just stand under it and put it on that way. Anyways, next part, the shoulder hinge bit, which will allow me to move in this direction. First, make some bushings on the lathe and then it's back to the plasma. Let's go. And by the way, I just can't state enough how much I love my homemade plasma cutter. It cuts this thick steel like butter, super nice and straight. I love it. Alright, that's the right shoulder hinge finished. Works pretty good. As you can see, it's for the up and down movement of the arm. And now for the rest of the arm, you can see there's two hinge points on here for this motion And then of course there will be another hinge around here. And I'm only going to do the right side first, because if there's any mistakes, like it doesn't fit my arm or anything else, I haven't wasted a ton of material and time. Now you know the drill, plasma cutter, welder. I want to keep the pace up in this video, not going to show too much detail, so cue the build montage. Action. That's the right arm done, fits my arm pretty nicely, has a nice wide range of motion, pretty good. Now before I make the left arm, I want to get this one moving, which means it's time for hydraulics. Alright, so hydraulics, one thing you should know, I'm not an expert, but I do have some experience with it. So, got these hydraulic cylinders, and the first hinge I want to make hydraulic is this one. The shoulder hinge, so this one will go in here. And after that we have to get it moving, which means attaching the hoses and the pumps and the valves and the tanks and the oil and the wiring and all that stuff. Don't worry about it too much, I'll figure it out. First let's mount it, let's go! Alright, so next, to move the cylinder, we're gonna need quite a lot of stuff. First and foremost, hydraulic oil, 5 liters. I want to make a tank later on, which will go on the bottom here. And to pump the oil, we got a gear pump, 1 cc, which means it does 1 cc per revolution. Later this will be coupled to a brushless DC motor. For the test, battery drill will do just fine, might move a bit slower. Then, to control the movement, big heavy valve block with solenoids on there to switch the valves, and then to connect it all together, some hoses, some tubing and some couplings. Let's mount all this stuff on here, hook it up, see if it moves. Alright, so mounted the valve block, mounted the pump, had to make a custom line to go from the pump to the valve block, and mounted the tank and made a temporary oil suction line and a custom attachment for the drill so I can drive the pump with the drill. Now this valve block is configured to be normally PT open, which means pump to tank is open when none of the valves are powered. So basically what should happen when I power the pump is the oil will just flow from around here to the valve block to the tank without doing anything. And then as soon as you power the coil, the PT will close and the oil will go to a cylinder. So let's give it a try. Seems to work. Alright, looking pretty good. Oil is coming out of there. Pump is working. No major big leaks. So I think what I should do next, hook up these two ports to this cylinder, see if we can get some movement. Looking good. Oops. Success! Yep, perfectly as intended. The drill actually works pretty good as a power source. But like I said, later I'll put a brushless motor on there with even more power and more RPMs because the cylinder was moving a bit slow. And like I said, the valve is normally open when none of the coils are powered. But of course, when the cylinder hits the end of the stroke, the coils are open and the pressure ramps up in the system. And that's what happened in the end there when the drill fell off. But I can adjust the maximum pressure in the system by adjusting this set screw. And based on the motor I'm going to use later, I can play around with that, so it will have a lot of pressure but not stall the motor. And I still don't have any major leaks yet, which is also a win. Alright, so what I'm going to do next, order all the hoses in the right length and all the couplings and stuff to finish hooking up all the other 5 cylinders. So while I'm waiting on the order to arrive to move the other cylinder for the elbow joint, I'm going to work on the grappling bit so we can crush some stuff. Alright, so that's the grappling bit done. As you've seen, pretty strong. A lot of crushing power. And next up I want to work on the control system so I can move the entire arm. So I got this Outrunner brushless motor sensored with a FESC speed controller. And this will power the pump. You see I've already made the attachment on here. And to control everything, I 3D printed this joystick, which will mount in the arm. Something like this, with this hexagon fitting in this hexagon. So the way this joystick will work is we have the joystick itself, which can pivot, and this bottom plate. And this bottom plate will have 4 micro switches in there. And then when you pivot the joystick, first it will switch the micro switch and switch the relay on the valve block. And then after the relay is activated, if you push it more, it will pull on this brake cable in the middle here, like this. And then the cable will be attached to the speed controller for the motor. So when I move the joystick a little bit, first it will trigger the switch. Then when I move it more, it will pull the cable and speed up the motor. And this way I will also have speed control over the movement. And later there will be a switch on here to activate the grapple. I'll show you later exactly how it will work, but first let's give it a try. Alright, wiring is almost done. Hooked the valves up to the switches in the joystick. Hook the joystick up with the cable to the remote control. Now the reason I'm using this complicated cable control system instead of just mounting the controller right here on the joystick is because this way I can make it so that I can control the motor speed with both arms and both joysticks instead of just one, which is better. And also I hooked up some hydraulic hoses to this cylinder and the elbow cylinder, which means it's ready for a test. Alright, so that was the test of the joystick. Seemed to work pretty good. Actually had pretty good control over the speed of the arm, which means I can move it quite accurately. So that's a win. And off camera I already made the left arm and put it on there, same way as the right arm. So starting to look pretty good, but also starting to look pretty heavy. Let's put it on my back, see if I can still lift it. Well, not terrible. Oh yeah. Alright, so pretty heavy, but it's on my back, so it's not that bad. Definitely ain't gonna carry it all day though, but for a couple of minutes it will be fine. So next thing to do, take it all apart again, finish all the welding, grind everything nice and smooth, and then paint it, thinking about painting the frame dark gray and then the cylinders green to kind of give it like a Hulk style. Then put it back together again, hook up the hydraulics and the electronics for the final time, and then we can see what it can really do. Let's go! Pretty good. All right, got some shoulder pads in. Let's give it a try. All right. Pretty good. Oh yeah. Definitely pretty cool. So, movement. Seems to work. Opening the jaws. There we go. All right, everything works. Can't wait to try it out. It's pretty heavy, but not too bad. I think this turned out pretty cool. Definitely homemade madness. So, next video, gonna see what it can do. Subscribe. See you then.